All right. Hello, everyone. I am excited to have Robby Gutmann here today. He's CEO and co-founder of NYDIG. And for those who didn't have a chance to listen to the enthralling discussion between Ross and Mike yesterday, maybe you could just start, Robby, and just give us some background on NYDIG and Stone Ridge and the company overall.
Sure, absolutely. And thanks very much for having me today and having both Ross and I at this event. And thanks for putting this on. It's a great thing you guys are doing and great event. I thought I would start by telling you a little bit of a funny story about the founding of Stone Ridge, which is NYDIG's parent company. And so for me, that story starts in 2011 when my career on the sell side of Wall Street was really flaming out. And so I've known Ross a long time, and I reached out to him seeing if there was an opportunity for us to work together. And he said, this call is really timely because I am actually thinking about starting a business. It's like, I got this tingly feeling in my stomach. It's like, this is how it starts. And he said, yeah, it's a stand-up paddleboarding race registration company. It's like, okay, well, good luck with that, dude. I'm not so interested. He's like, all right, okay, that's good feedback. Let's talk again in a week. And he came back to me in about a week and he said, all right, let me try this one. It's a mission-driven, principles-based financial services company where we pursue the mission of financial security for all, operating under the principles of kindness, humility, and focus. It's like, yes, that idea, that grabbed a hold of me and it wouldn't let go. And I basically quit my job the next day. And the next thing I did was call my now co-founder, Yen Zhao, who essentially quit her job the next day to come join us. And what we found over the last almost 10 years that we've been doing this together is those three principles are our secret weapon. Because what happens is when you create a business based on the principle of kindness, you create an environment of safety and trust. People feel comfortable and they can really do their best, most productive, most creative work. The second thing is when you create an environment based on humility, that's how you stay curious. And that leaves people safe to admit they don't know. And that's how we stay at the forefront of innovation. And finally, the environment based on focus, it's got a bunch of different meanings, a little bit overloaded, but it means at least two things to us. So first is an acknowledgement that domain mastery is not born. It doesn't happen by accident. It's only the result of long periods of focused effort. And the other thing it means to us is there have been inflection points along the way, like NYDIG, where we've made bold, abrupt decisions about how to focus the business. For example, focusing NYDIG on Bitcoin. And so when you recruit under these principles, you recruit the best people in the world, and you create an environment where they feel safe to do their best work, and you get a kind of crackling creative energy. And it was in that field of crackling creative energy, like you can feel it in our office when you come in, that this idea of money as an open source protocol, that idea grabbed us and wouldn't let go. And so NYDIG was really born because we had the same problem that you did. We just had it a little bit earlier. And that problem is if Fong, the individual, wants to buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin on his cell phone, that's actually pretty easy. If MicroStrategy, the corporation, wants to buy $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, that's actually pretty hard. And for us, we broke the challenge down into three parts. So first, how do you accumulate the Bitcoin in a compliant and auditable fashion? How do you store the Bitcoin securely and in an auditable fashion? And finally, how do you account for the Bitcoin on your balance sheet, again, in an auditable fashion? And I think for us, as I think you found as well, we not only did we have trouble with each individual piece of that, but the idea of stitching different things together to solve that problem, that was an untenable challenge. And so we solve that problem ourselves internally. And as a result, we have something that we think is unique in the market, which is a completely proprietary, integrated, full stack solution that incorporates asset management, custody, execution. Those were the first three things, as well as the accounting expertise. And since that time, we've added derivatives, financing, a research function, and most recently, a data platform that we're making available to our clients shortly. We operate the business out of two regulated subsidiaries. We have both a BitLicense from the state of New York, as well as a limited purpose trust charter. We're one of only 2 companies in the world that have both of those licenses. We have a SOC 1 Type 1, a SOC 1 Type 2, a SOC 2 Type 1, a SOC 2 Type 2, collect all the acronyms. Somewhat uniquely in this space, we don't operate a retail business. We don't operate an exchange. We don't deal with end investors or two-legged individuals, which really allows us to focus on our core audience of corporations, institutional and high net worth investors, and more recently, banks, making our full stack integrated platform available to them by API.
Awesome. So the SUP business, did it happen?
I am not a partner in the SUP business.
All right. So you missed out.
I missed out. He was right, as always.
All right. So we'll get back to the buy, store, and account for some of those offerings that you have and your differentiators. Tell me a little bit about the size of NYDIG, how many employees you have. We heard Ross say yesterday that you were $1 billion, then $2 billion, looking at $6 billion now in assets, and then get to. Did you know that he was going to give you a target at $25 billion already this year?
To be honest, that target is a little low. I think if I only hit 25 billion, you're probably talking to a different guy next year. He's pretty demanding, but I'm confident we'll get there based on the pipeline.
Okay, awesome. So how many employees do you have? How many folks do you have?
We're about 80 as of Monday, and going strong. And we are recruiting. So if there are people out there that want to be part of that crackling creative energy field, look us up. We'd love to talk.
Great. And so you serve, this is Bitcoin for corporations, right? So you serve institutions only, some high net worth individuals. Give us an example of some of those, right? I know, some are very high profile. You've done work in insurance. Give me some examples of your customers. Yeah,
absolutely. And so one caveat I would give is one thing that NYDIG clients expect and receive is complete discretion about their activity. So ordinarily, I would never speak about a client's dealings. I do have 2 clients that have given explicit permission to talk about what we do with them. And so the first one, you're absolutely right, is MassMutual, 150-year-old mutual institution that late last year we helped allocate $100 million of their general account to Bitcoin. And I think the MassMutual experience is really instructive of 3 dynamics that we're seeing in the market today. So the first dynamic is there is a rarefied air of institutional investor that just has the highest fiduciary standards in the world. So MassMutual has been around for 160 years. They're AA+ rated. They have not been around and maintained that rating by being careless. They are extremely thorough, extremely diligent in their diligence. And so an advantage that we've discovered is both the fact that the platform was designed by institutional investors with serious skin in the game for institutional investors and hasn't really had to solve other problems. That's a big advantage. And the fact that it's fully integrated across the asset management, the custody, and the execution, as well as the financing and the derivatives. That's a big advantage for us in terms of the diligence. I'll give you one funny anecdote. So we actually know the due diligence team at MassMutual pretty well. We manage assets for them in other contexts as well. And it's a large, serious team. And in the process of the diligence around the Bitcoin allocation, we scheduled a 2-hour session, and there were something like 8 of us on the call. And we log into the Zoom, and it's one gentleman, and it's someone we've known before, but it's kind of like, where are the other 19 people? And he says, oh, no. This is just my 2-hour session. And he wasn't kidding. He had 2 hours of questions lined up, and we had to go person by person. And so I think that just gives you a sense of the kind of investor and the kind of diligence that we're going through. I have a little boy in kindergarten. We're starting to do like, what do mommy and daddy do for a living? And it's like, well, son, daddy responds to diligence requests for a living. He doesn't get it, but I think it's funny. And so the second dynamic that I think the MassMutual experience is really telling of is really about the macro backdrop and the allocations. Ross gave you the bamboo analogy yesterday. First 10 quarters at least of NYDIG's existence, we were proactively out in the market selling the idea of an allocation to Bitcoin in the portfolio with, rounds to zero success. Like, I'm not afraid to say it. At this point in the market, including, we've been talking to MassMutual about Bitcoin for at least 3 years, from Ross to the CEO. At this point in the market, we are no longer selling the idea of an allocation to Bitcoin. The macro backdrop, the great work that you and Michael and the rest of the team are doing, that's selling it for us. At this point, what we're doing is helping people who have decided to allocate to Bitcoin with what is the right way for them to do it. And if you think about that 160-year history of MassMutual, this is really the first time, based on the rate environment, where if they look forward from where they are today, they see for the first time the merest hint of a possibility that they might not be able to make good on obligations to their policyholders. And this is an incredible team that takes that responsibility incredibly seriously. They just can't not do anything about it. And the dynamics of a life and annuity company are they have to price their products with the forward yield that they see in the market today. Like, they can't not do that. Other investors, they have a little bit more latitude of how backward looking they can be. But from our perspective, given the rate environment, low, no negative yields, it's a when, not an if, that every long-term allocator is going to have to be looking at this. And the final dynamic, as you and I have spent a lot of time talking about, is simply buying and storing Bitcoin in custody may not achieve the accounting outcome that certain kinds of investors are looking for. So you guys have opted to take the general intangible treatment on your balance sheet. That doesn't always work for the investors that we work with. So a big part of our practice is actually structuring bespoke solutions for each investor. We spend time understanding what their needs are. We listen, and we create a solution. And that's what we did for MassMutual, and that's what we do for more and more of our investors as they come into the space. And I think it's really those three dynamics that are what we're seeing in the market today: the necessity of an allocation, the intensity of the diligence by this kind of investor, and the opportunity to structure solutions around the investment to achieve the accounting or other goals that an investor might have.
So we'll get to that. It's called bespoke solution in a little bit. I want to go back to the MassMutual point. There were probably three major sort of public company Bitcoin investment announcements last year. There was MicroStrategy, and then there was Square.
Who?
MicroStrategy and Square. Now those, we're tech companies, so people sort of get it, right? And they say, they're going out trying to do something different. Square had it as part of their product strategy, but MassMutual, that to me is a huge, momentum shift. And for anyone here who's listening and saying, well, and we have all different industries covered in the audience here. Go a step deeper there. You're talking about their general account. It's 100 million. Now they have a huge portfolio in their general account, 350 billion or something in that range, right?
Right.
How do you think that decision should make other companies feel more comfortable investing a part of their balance sheet in Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we tend to see investors going through a four-part journey. So the first part is the investment decision and the investment process. And again, we've been talking to MassMutual about Bitcoin, mostly to no success for over 3 years. And it was really the collapsing of rates that changed what they're looking at. This is a team and an institution that has made good on obligations to policyholders for well over 100 years. And, be damned if this team is the ones that aren't going to do that. And so I have to give them an immense amount of credit for the forward thinkingness and the thoughtfulness with which they're approaching how to create their general account so that they continue to make good. I mean, I don't want to claim that Bitcoin is some magic bullet. You just put the whole thing in Bitcoin and your problem is solved, but it's clearly a part of the solution, and they've understood and acknowledged that. And I would expect to see rounds to every investor that has the same kind of horizon and liability challenge that MassMutual does, making an allocation in the coming years.
Okay, great. So now let's get into this accounting piece, right? So you offer different solutions for different customers. Bitcoin as a fund versus sort of just buying an exchange and holding custody. What are the pros and cons of one versus the other from your point of view as you talk to institutions who are trying to make that type of a decision?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we're the best thing about our business is we're wrapper agnostic. That's the beauty of the fully integrated full stack solution. If the right answer for our client is an asset management product, whether that's a commingled fund, whether that's a separately managed account, whether that's a bespoke structured investment vehicle, or whether the right answer for them is direct ownership of the Bitcoin on the blockchain because they want to trade the position actively, or because that's the right accounting answer for them, or they want to use financing. Whether the right answer is for the Bitcoin to be collateral in a repurchase agreement, whether the right answer is for the Bitcoin to be collateral in a bilateral derivatives arrangement, all of that is on the table for what we do. And, I'd say our approach is there is no one size fits all. And different organizations have different goals. For some organizations, the general intangible treatment may actually be what they want, that the in some ways lack of volatility of the position on the balance sheet. For other organizations, they really do want the mark-to-market treatment. And depending on the industry they're in, the standards they set, sort of all of the different facts and circumstances, we're able to listen to that and structure a solution accordingly.
Great. So sometimes it takes years to make a decision that you want to invest in Bitcoin. Sometimes it might take months, like it did for MicroStrategy. Let's say somebody comes away from this conference and says tomorrow, hey, Robby, I got $50 million I want to put in Bitcoin. Give me a sense of the customer journey and whether that's something that you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I told you I have permission from 2 clients to talk about their experiences. So I think the other client that I would talk about is instructive for this. So I want to tell you the story of Marathon Patent Group. And this story starts with a phone call from Michael Saylor to Ross Stevens. And I think I would be doing a disservice to Bitcoin Twitter if we didn't spend a minute imagining what that call was like. I'm imagining the soft moonlight shining on the Times headline that's encoded in the Genesis block, Ross at his desk wearing the number go up t-shirt, orange Bitcoin bat phone on his desk, rings, picks it up like, Bitcoin Ranger 1, talk to me. Saylor on the other end of the phone, Ranger 1, this is Ranger 2. I got a code orange. Merrick at Marathon, he's ready. You know what to do. Ross, like looking out over the Manhattan skyline, his broad shoulders ready to bear the weight of the responsibility. He says, I know what to do. I won't let Bitcoin down. And so that phone call happens, at least that's how I imagine it happened, around, call it 9 p.m. on a Wednesday night. Ross speaks to Merrick. By 11 a.m. the next morning, our whole team is on a call with their whole team. We're doing that process I described to you. We're understanding what their needs are. We're understanding what they're trying to achieve. We're understanding how they think about the accounting and the audit. We take all of that in. We're able to propose and structure a solution for them, complete AML KYC, and be in the market for them by 2:41 p.m., little less than 4 hours after that call. We actually facilitated that first execution with 50 million off our own balance sheet. That's a capability we often bring to bear for our clients, depending on their time and price objectives. That's something that's big in our Wall Street background. And we had actually completed their execution entirely by 9 p.m. that evening. The price had gone down 10% from when we started to when we finished. So we completed their 150 million, no impact, no footprint in the market, in and out, got what they wanted done, just like that. So I would say if there's someone out there with 50 million that they want to deploy, if they're motivated, if they're ready, we can do it very, very fast.
Well, that's great. As interesting as your imagination of the story, I'd like to know how Mike actually gave Ross Ranger 1 and he got Ranger 2. I'd be a little surprised if it really went down that way.
There's a version I cut where Michael says, dude, we've talked about this. I'm Ranger 1 and you're Ranger 2.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's cool. Thanks for that story. Tell us about the future. What's next for you guys? What additional products are you looking at putting out there? 25 billion, call it 30 billion this year. What does next year look like?
Yeah. I think for us, what I would describe is a couple of dynamics we see in the market. So first of all, this idea of corporations, institutional investors allocating to their portfolio to Bitcoin, the asset, that's happening. Like we see the pipeline, like we're onboarding 75 institutions a month, adding capacity as fast as we can. I would be surprised again if 30 billion is where we come in. I think we'll be well north of that. I really see two dynamics that I think are going to shake up the market in a good way. And so we're thinking about our products in terms of that. So first is we see incumbent financial brands coming into this space in a big way. So if you think about it today, whether you're a retail end user or whether you're a corporation like MicroStrategy, to do this, to allocate to Bitcoin, you have to choose a brand that for all intents and purposes didn't exist 10 years ago. And so that's kind of a fundamental challenge. Within a year, I expect that not to be the case. I think you'll have the opportunity to choose to do this kind of activity with a brand that you work with for other financial services. And so we're spending a lot of time in our product segment. We have it deployed today and we're constantly adding to it a set of APIs and an integrations team to help financial services incumbents integrate with our infrastructure, whether you're a bank or a brokerage or a wealth management platform that's trying to appeal to a younger generation. We're helping people with that. Whether you're a prime brokerage or an asset servicer that's trying to be responsive to your institutional clients, to help them execute, custody, finance the inventory, we're doing integrations of that sort. So I think that's a very exciting development for the market and for us. The other development I see in the market is, as Ross mentioned yesterday, the shifting of the conversation from being about Bitcoin the asset to Bitcoin the network. And if you think about it, those two things are linked naturally. Bitcoin the asset only has value roughly in proportion to your expectation about participation and velocity on the network. And so now that this idea of Bitcoin the asset has gone from fringe to effectively mainstream just doesn't know it yet, we're shifting our attention pretty dramatically to this idea of Bitcoin the network and bringing out products that, for example, can help corporations move money around the world transparently, cheaply, and instantaneously by leveraging this open source monetary system. And that's very exciting to us and coming down the pipe.
That's great. So you're getting into the network side, the technology side. Sounds like you're going to open up your APIs, potentially be an OEM to financial services institutions.
That's exactly right.
Obviously, you believe in the future of Bitcoin. And so tell us, what do you think Bitcoin's price is going to be at the end of this year?
I don't have a crystal ball. We'll just have to see. I think it's going to be higher than it is today by a lot.
Okay. Awesome. Any final words of advice, anything that you want to close with, Robby?
Yeah, again, I would just highlight these dynamics that we're seeing in the market. Investors of various stripes are understanding that an allocation to Bitcoin in their portfolio that's gone from a fringe idea to a mainstream idea. We can help educate people. If there's a champion internally, look us up. We'll provide you materials. And then in terms of the diligence that is required, again, we do ODD for a living. Look us up. We can help you with that. And finally, let us help you structure the right solution to get the treatment that you're looking for. We do it all day, every day. Last thing I would highlight is we're actually helping corporations within the treasury function get yield on their assets as well, both fiat and Bitcoin. We've actually financed over $1 billion for clients by bringing cash in, get over collateralized by Bitcoin. We're often paying 10 times or more what you're getting in the commercial paper market. And we're seeing a lot of traction with that, as well as corporations that have made the allocation to Bitcoin. We're helping them get yield on that position as well. So would love to talk to people in the space to help them make the transition.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for the partnership throughout the conference. And I'm sure people will love to hear what you've had to say and Ross had to say, and hopefully you'll get that order book up. Started at 25 billion yesterday. I got to 30 billion today. You said that's a layup, so maybe it's 35, 40. We'll see where you end.
We'll see. If I don't get there, somebody else talking to you next year.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Fong. It was great to chat.
All right, take care. Bye.